Here's 14 tips to help you master creating AI images using Google's Nano Banana. Whether you want to create images of your consistent characters for a story, or if you want to create visuals for your AI videos, I guarantee you'll find something inside this guide to level up your AI creations. Tip number 1 is that you can build an entire world starting from just a single image inside Nano Banana. So for example, if I start with this image of a pilot, she's looking into the distance, there's a spacecraft behind her. I can create an entire scene with just this single image. If I wanted to create an image of her climbing into the aircraft that's behind her, I can do that inside Nano Banana using a prompt like, create an image of this pilot climbing into the cockpit of the fighter jet behind her. Maybe she's had a long day and is tired and weary, so I can create another image of her sitting down and leaning back against this wooden crate. Nano Banana also has some really powerful image editing abilities. I have a photo of her wearing a helmet this time inside of the cockpit of the spacecraft. And I can tell Nano Banana specifically to put an oxygen mask on her face. And it'll keep everything in the image the same except add on that oxygen mask. There's other AI image models that can do this like Flux or ChatGPT, but I found that Nano Banana is the best at constructing an entire world from a single image while keeping everything as consistent as possible. Google gives access to Nano Banana either through the Gemini app or Google AI Studio, and you'll need to make sure you have this 2.5 Flash model selected. I can drag in the photo of my pilot, and with that uploaded, all I need to do to start creating an entire world from this image is enter a prompt. For example, I can use a prompt like create a side profile photo of the pilot wiping down the aircraft behind her with a rag. Here's the deal with Nano Banana. If we look at the result we got, it's not quite correct. The perspective looks a little weird, right? Between her arm reaching out and the plane, it looks like the plane's a little bit too small compared to her. Creating images in Nano Banana is an iterative process. When something doesn't work exactly like how you imagined, try adjusting the prompt. Instead, if I modify the prompt to say, create a side profile, close-up photo of the pilot, wiping down the side of the aircraft behind her with a rag. The key changes being that I'm asking for a close-up photo and also for her to be wiping down the side of the aircraft. Nano Banana generates an image that's much more realistic to what the scene should actually look like. You'll notice that when you generate images inside of Google's apps, there is this diamond-shaped watermark at the bottom of the images. That brings us to tip number 2. You'll need to use another platform other than Google Gemini or Google AI Studio in order to create images that don't come with a watermark. One of those platforms you can use is called OpenArt, which basically combines a bunch of different AI tools all inside of one platform. So to use Nano Banana, I will need to go down to the chat to edit feature. It'll bring us to a tool where we can upload an image and directly prompt for the AI to change the image. And there's a bunch of different models you can use here. Nano Banana is one of them, but there's also Flux Context, the ChatGPT models. Let's stick with Nano Banana for now. And then if I upload a photo of the pilot, and then in the prompt if I say create a close-up shot on her face looking towards the camera. If we run this prompt, it'll generate the image like we asked for, except it doesn't come with that little diagonal watermark at the bottom of the image. Tip number 3 is how to change backgrounds correctly. You need to add context and intent into the prompt. For example, if I had this photo of a pilot, and I simply prompt for Nano Banana to change the background to a jungle. It will do that, but if you look at the jungle, there's some disconnect between the way the jungle looks and the pilot looks. And it literally looks like a super cheap Photoshop job where you just added on a random background behind him. Instead, we need to use a prompt that describes the intention of the image. And this might be a prompt like, create a scene of this character inside a cinematic sci-fi film. By changing the background to temple ruins in a lush jungle, keep his pose and location exactly the same. If we use a prompt like that, it'll create a scene that's much more realistic, especially with the lighting behind. We can even improve on this a little bit more. I think if he was in the jungle, there might be some more shadows on his face. It looks a little bit too bright. So then I took this image of him in the jungle and said, add subtle shadows cast onto the body and head from the jungle around him. And if we compare the before and after, when we simply just told Nano Banana to change the background versus when we really made an effort to tell Nano Banana the intention behind the image, there's a huge difference in the quality of the images. There was also this Twitter post from Martin LeBlanc where the idea is that if you actually add a green screen behind your character and then prompt for a different background, you get results that look much better. So I also tried this out for myself. I didn't notice too much of a difference when using the green screen first and then prompting for a different background. I'd say the main thing that really helped is to tell Nano Banana to specifically also add the lightings and shadows that are adjusted to match the outdoor environment. So that way, if I start with a photo of myself with some pretty flat looking lighting, it'll generate an image of me with a different background, but also adjust the lightings and shadows on my face to make it actually look like a photo that would have been taken of me outside. Tip number 4, understanding segmentation masks. Here's a visualization of how the AI actually understands the objects inside the scene. On the right, I showed the different parts of the scene, like the background, the sofa, me, segmented into different colors. You can think of it as detecting the different objects inside the scene. And with this understanding of how the AI sees the world, it helps us edit specific parts of the image. So if I wanted to specifically change the sofa, I can use a prompt like change the white sofa to a soft blue color with a velvet texture, keep everything else exactly the same. And what it should do is to edit the specific sofa segment. Now in my segmentation mask, I only highlighted the big objects, but this would also be applied to smaller objects in the scene, like my eyebrows, my eyes, my hair. Tip number 5, combining multiple images, multiple characters, multiple objects into the same scene. So I've got these photos of 2 characters, a blue man, a green woman. And I can actually use Nano Banana to put both of these characters into the same image, interacting with each other. If I wanted to do that inside OpenArt, I'm going to go to this image generation. And for the model, we actually need to switch this from Flux to Nano Banana, which is easy to find, I guess, with this, since she's holding a banana. Then I actually need to upload the 2 character photos. So I'll drag those in here, the blue man and also the green woman. Let's try a prompt like the man with blue skin and the woman with green skin stand across from each other. Black ancient temple ruins in the background inside a medieval fantasy film. So, what do you think? It sort of followed my instructions. I mean, you put the 2 of them together inside the same scene. But something went wrong here. It really hasn't changed the character pose or lighting from the original reference images I used at all. Here's one of the rogue woman, and she looks exactly the same as the reference image, like it literally just transferred her over directly. This is a pretty low quality image. I can see a lot of people getting frustrated when they try putting characters together and they get results like this. What you need to do is really put context and intention behind the prompts. What that actually looks like is putting in more descriptive camera angles, like I want a wide angle shot photo, a full body shot, and telling the AI how you want the characters to actually move relative to each other. So I'll say side profile photo of the green skinned woman sitting on a rock. Then the blue skinned man reaches out and gestures for the woman to stand out. Inside a medieval film shot on a 35mm camera. By specifically adding more action-style keywords into the prompts that describes how the characters move relative to each other. That seems to be what's going to get you the best results when you try to combine multiple images together. You really got to give Nano Banana a lot of context into the scene. It's a super powerful image model, but you need to make sure you're prompting the right way. Now we can start adding in more and more objects. Maybe I want a specific background image that I want the characters to be put into, and some more props like this golden relic I want them to be holding, for example. The issue with Nano Banana is that the more stuff you try to combine into one image, the worse the quality of the results will be. Looking at this photo, the man with blue skin looks totally different than the reference image of the character. He has a full head of hair. Good for him. But he's missing the elf ears. It doesn't look the same at all. That brings us to tip number 6. the collage method. So we know that combining multiple images gets worse and worse the more images we try to combine together. However, there is a way around this, and that's to use the collage method, where instead we place the characters and the props and all the references we want onto that single reference image. Now when I go and try to combine them together, the results actually look pretty good. Everything is transferred over from my collage reference photo. The lighting, the poses of the characters look good. I will say that looking at the finger super closely, there are some issues with the hands. But this is the best way to combine a ton of different references, is to use a collage image where you put all the references together and then use Nano Banana to turn that into a photo. Tip number 7, managing aspect ratios. You see, the images Nano Banana generates are going to be the same aspect ratio as the reference images that you use. So let's just say my reference images of my characters were instead vertical images like these. If we use these images as the references to Nano Banana and I tried combining the characters together, the result will also be a vertical image. So practically what that means is if you have vertical image references like this one, it won't be able to create a landscape wide image and vice versa. Again, the way around this comes back to the reference images that we use. So what I did is I actually put the two vertical images of my characters into one widescreen landscape image. Now, if I used this widescreen image as the reference photo for Nano Banana, it'll then generate a wide landscape image for me. So if you're not getting the correct aspect ratios, make sure you're actually using the reference photos that have the aspect ratio you're trying to generate. Tip number 8 is outpainting or expanding an image. There's no way to tell Nano Banana to extend the size of a photo. However, if I put my square photo of this character onto just a blank white sheet, that's a wide landscape image, I can actually tell Nano Banana to fill in the white space by expanding the character photo. And it'll actually fill in all the white areas for me. So if you wanted to expand your images, this is the way to do it. Tip number 9, using annotations to guide the image editing process. We can actually hand label the reference images to tell Nano Banana how to make the AI edits. So what I've done here is taken my character photo, placed it onto a wide canvas, and then added in text and arrow annotations for how I want the rest of the image to be filled in. So I'll put an ancient temple at the top. I'll want to put a dragon flying in the distance in the background. And we'll also put a mysterious stone well in the foreground area. And if I put this into Nano Banana, all I have to tell it to do is expand the character photo to fill in the white areas using the directions in the image. I also want to keep my character in the same location. And Nano Banana does a really good job of understanding my instructions, placing the specific objects in the locations I wanted them to be in. This gives you a lot of control over specifically how you want everything in your generated images to be placed. Tip number 10, annotating with images. So beyond just using arrow and text annotations, we can also actually add on all of our image references as well. So I created this annotated image that has the arrows and text of where I want everything to be placed. But I've also added in the image references of all those things. So I have a specific photo of a temple that I want here, the character, and the dragon in the background. If we use this as a reference inside Nano Banana, this is what it can generate for us. This gives so much control over how you want everything in the final photo to turn out. And this is another level that we have for AI image editing. Tip number 11, changing up the lighting in the scene. You can use Nano Banana to relight or change the color palette of a photo. So let's say I start with this image of this kind of dangerous looking character with a spaceship in the background. Let's say if I wanted to change the mood and the lighting to something maybe not as intimidating, I can tell Nano Banana to change the lighting of the scene to a golden glow with soft diffused lighting, adding rays of sunlight, casting shadows onto the character. And we also needed to tell it to keep the character and the environment exactly the same. And Nano Banana really does an excellent job of keeping all the structures and characters of the scene looking just like they did before, except it'll swap the colors and the lighting. So we have a much softer, brighter looking image. And here's one where I asked for a bright blue sky with vivid, saturated colors. And if we do a quick before and after, it does a pretty impressive job. Now, it does look like there's a part of the shadow that's missing from his foot here, but you could also just fix that using the prompt. Tip number 12, adding in logos and text. Nano Banana is also great at generating and understanding text. So I created this logo, Tau, and I can actually take this and actually embed it onto a physical object. Here's this futuristic looking rover. If I use a prompt like add the spray painted logo with a text Tau onto the side of the vehicle. And then we'll also need to say with the lighting adjusted to match the environment. This is the type of result that we can get from this. Now, there's a lot more that we can do with this. I can also ask Nano Banana to change the text of the logo while preserving the same style. So in this case, I told it to say rover. I could also extend the text if I wanted. Here, I also added the word prompts. It looks like it shrunk the word prompts a little bit because it didn't want it to paint over the window, which does actually make sense. Nano Banana is really effective at embedding your own logos, graphics, designs onto objects or products. Tip number 13, camera angles. I want to dive a little deeper into the world building aspect of Nano Banana, and that's ability to change the camera angle of a specific shot. So let's say I start with this reference photo of a character. I can ask Nano Banana to create a close-up shot, which will bring us a little bit closer to her. But we could also generate a low angle shot from below, which will place the camera beneath her and tilt upwards. Now, if you want your character to fill in the entire image, you might need to use a keyword in the prompt like full body shot. And a good tip is also to specifically prompt for the footwear of the character. If I tell her to be wearing boots, the AI will have to generate her entire body from her head all the way down to her boots and show her entire body inside the frame instead of just the upper body like in the original image. We can also create a high angle shot of her from above where we're looking down towards her. Zoom out more, expand the image, and pull the camera back if we want. It is a little tricky when you're trying to do a rotation, so I also prompted for an image shot from behind her. If we compare the original image with the image shot from behind, and you look at that stone building in the background, it actually copies over that same stone building. This can happen if you try to rotate around a character. A lot of the times it'll keep some of the elements of the background pretty much the same. But this is a pretty easy fix. I just prompted for Nano Banana to edit the image and adding some different looking architecture behind. And it changes up the shape of the building a bit for us. I will say that for overhead shots where we're looking down at the character, sometimes these don't really work great. It tends to bunch things up. So you'll see that the building and the stone wall is a lot closer to her than you'd expect starting from the original image. But overall, this is a great way to create a consistent scene and environment around your character, starting from just a single shot. Tip number 14 is combining all the consistent scenes of our character seamlessly into an AI video. What we can actually do is take multiple images of our scene, for example, a front-facing photo of our character, and then also a photo taken from behind her, and use an AI video generator to actually seamlessly transition between these two images. It'll start from behind the character and rotate all the way behind her. And it's a really, really powerful way to connect all those consistent scene photos that we generated earlier. The best way to do this right now is to use the start and end frames feature inside the Clean AI video generator. So inside OpenArt, I'll need to go to this AI video generator. Then we'll need to make sure we have the right model selected. In this case, it's going to be Clean 2.1. What I'll need to do is actually upload the first frame I want, which is going to be the front of this character, and also the frame I wanted to end up with, which is behind her, looking towards the well. So let's get those uploaded, starting with the photo of her face. And you'll see right here, you have the option to use it as a start frame and also add an end frame. So I also add the end frame, which is going to be this shot behind her. And then in the prompt bar, I can use something like the camera rotates behind the woman, Remember that the first frame is her face and the last frame is going to be behind her. You have some other options like creating a longer 10-second video, and let's generate that. Here's what the result can look like. And this way we can take the world building to even a higher level. I also generated some more transitions for the scenes of my pilot. So for example, starting with that first frontal shot of her and then ending with that shot of her climbing into the cockpit of her spaceship. And if we use this as a first and last frame, it'll generate a complete action shot of her running towards the plane and climbing up the ladder. I created a complete in-depth guide of how to generate these seamless AI videos that transition between multiple shots of a scene you can create using Nano Banana, where I'll show all the different camera movements, transitions, transformations you can create using the start and end frame technique. If you want to see how to make these types of videos, go watch this tutorial right here.